Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in, back with another video a day until this channel hits 100K. I think we're at video 42 or 43. It's been quite the grind. But today, I want to talk about this truck. I just hit 10,000 miles. It is the 3.0 Duramax diesel, and everybody loves to talk about DEF. Yep, I got to toss them in because we're at about the halfway point. But I want to talk about what it's been like to own this truck over the course of 10,000 miles. I've never owned a diesel truck before, and I see a lot of interest on this platform. Now, yeah, I guess you could say that DEF is kind of a pain. You know, it's an extra fluid, it's a consumable that you have to put in your vehicle. And a lot of people love to immediately go to politics about it, but is it really that bad? I mean, truth be told, I've only had to put DEF in once every, on average, 3 tanks of fuel, and that's at half. So I think this DEF tank is somewhere around 5 gallons, but I always just fill it up when it gets to about halfway, and I never really have to think about it all that much. Now, I did learn the hard way that you do not want to be buying this stuff at gas stations because they charge about double what you can get for this stuff at Costco. Typically at Costco, this stuff runs about 12 to 13 bucks per jug. I do like to pop an extra hole in the handle back here. Just helps it flow a little bit faster. When I was on the road to Boulder, which that's where we'll talk about where this truck really shines, having to pay 28 bucks for a jug of DEF felt like highway robbery. But all in, this really hasn't been that big of a deal. Now, I kind of fall somewhere in this, like, yeah, it's annoying, but also like they've gotten pretty good with these emission systems on these diesels. I'd kind of rather it not be there, but it is what it is. But the moment that the EPA is okay with the deletes, I will absolutely be doing one. And there's a lot of people that do it, and whether you can get away with it is one thing, but when you go to trade it in, to have to put all that stuff back or have it impact your resale value, I just don't think the delete is worth it right now, for the fact that if you have to go for like an emissions test, which here in Arizona, after a couple of years of ownership, I forgot what it is, you do have to go through that. It's not worth the hassle of having that become an issue down the road. But again, the moment that they allow you to do the deletes without any sort of penalty, and the fact that the dealers would not reject it on a trade-in for not meeting emissions requirements, I think the day will probably come. I will be doing the DEF delete, and I think that day probably is going to come. It seems like maybe it will. We'll see, but if not, I'm really not all that worried about DEF. Now, I've not done a ton of towing with this truck, so I am the wrong person to ask how it's been in that capacity, but I have taken this thing on some ridiculous road trips, and I'm going to address the there was a comment I saw on the channel today about someone saying, like, man, you should have bought a Cybertruck, like that's the way to go, you way better. I'll tell you, the reason why I love this diesel so much is I just did a road trip, I don't know, 4 months ago or so, from Phoenix to Boulder, and on that trip I did nearly 12 and a half hours. It was like just over 12 hours of driving, and in that 12 hours I only stopped for a total of 25 minutes to put fuel in this thing. The longest leg of that trip that I did was over 3 hours on 1 tank of fuel, and that's the kind of driving that I like to do, is especially on these long road trips, just pound the pavement, get those miles done, stop, throw some fuel in the truck, grab some food, and hit the road and keep on going. The time you're not moving is just the longer that trip is going to take you. So this truck was just an absolute animal on that trip, and I'm not even talking about MPG. Overall, this truck is averaging just under 20 MPG, sitting on 35s. It's got a bit of a lift kit, a suspension on it as well. It's got the King shocks with a just about 1-inch lift, so kind of consider it more of like a level. These AT4s already come from the factory with a 2-inch lift, and I basically picked it up like another inch on top of that. So not a fuel efficient truck in terms of its setup, but the diesel makes up for it like you wouldn't believe, and I just absolutely love this powertrain. So the DEF, yeah, you know, every 3 to 4 tanks, basically I'm averaging, tracking this through Fuelie, which I do track my DEF consumption, every about 1,500 miles or so, I'm throwing 2.5 gallons of DEF in the tank. Really not the end of the world. And what I love about this 3.0 Duramax diesel is that it's not trying to win the horsepower race. It's not trying to be a TRX or get into like the supercharged or any of those games. I think it's actually just the perfect horsepower and torque for this platform of pickup truck. I have towed side by side with it so far. What did I towed something else? I don't remember what. I don't remember, but towing, like any new pickup truck, you barely feel the trailer behind you. But no, I'm not the channel to go to for like, what is it like to tow a giant camper? There's plenty of other people out there doing that. I'm just here to tell you that as basically a daily driving pickup truck, this thing does everything that I needed to do and more, and by far has been the best pickup truck that I've ever owned. And it's not because it's the most recent pickup truck that I've ever owned. I know a lot of people tend to think there's like a recency bias for this. I have no problem saying if something is great or not. It's just this platform has been awesome. Now, there are some concerns that I have, and I know I'd mentioned deleting the whole DPF and all that if I could, and I possibly may in the future. I have some concerns about maybe things getting a little bit gunked up with the way that whole like recirculation thing works. I'm not a huge diesel guy, but I do know that there are some concerns that I have, but we'll see how it does. And all those people who are just love to talk about the oil pump belt, which is like a rubber belt that's on the rear. It's like a whole process to change that at like 100 and I don't know, 50,000 miles. I forgot what. Honestly, I probably won't keep the truck that long, so I'm not that worried about it. So yes, if you're buying one used, that's something to look out for. And also, if you're driving any other pickup truck, when you get to the 150,000 mile mark, you're probably gonna have some major maintenance stuff to be doing at that point, no matter what the vehicle is. This Duramax turbo diesel in this platform, I just wouldn't recommend any other powertrain. Now, I had an old GM, old 2015 GMC Sierra with the 5.3 V8. Loved that motor. Thought it was perfect for a truck as well. The power delivery, the sound, everything was great. But GM's not having a great time with their V8s right now. And when I had an option with this truck, it was only the 3.0 diesel or the 6.2. And by the time I was buying this, there was already enough people talking about the 6.2s grenading when I said, I'm gonna give the diesel a shot. Everybody loves to get real hung up on that oil pump belt or the fact that you gotta put DEF in it, but in my experience, it just hasn't really been all that much of a thing. The diesel clatter out of this truck, I feel like it was like engineered to be the sweet spot for a diesel truck that's a daily driver that your wife isn't gonna get into and be super upset about or annoyed by. From inside the truck, just enough grunt there. You know you're driving a diesel. Under the hood itself, you can hear a little diesel clatter. It is perfection. And then when you close the hood, it's a little more subdued. Makes me feel like I'm getting that same feeling I do out of like, I don't know, there's something behind it. That's something I actually hated with my Ford, the F-150, with the twin turbo V6, as much as that motor is a beast, and it's actually a pretty good motor. The hybrid powertrain with the power boost I had terrible luck with, but I digress. That's not what this video is about. But the problem with that V6 is no matter how, whatever they do to it, it still sounds like a V6 that's kind of like, doesn't feel like it belongs in a truck. This feels like it belongs in the vehicle that it's in, and I am absolutely just completely loving this thing. Now, couple things to make note of. Yes, diesel, sometimes it sucks. I have gloves on in the truck here, because sometimes you pull up to a diesel pump and it's like pretty gross. And not that I'm one that worries about getting dirty. I do it all the time here on the channel. But if you're going out to dinner or you're at work, you don't want to smell like diesel. And some of those pumps can be pretty rowdy. They're fueling up diesel vehicles all day long, you know, commercial vehicles. They just get kind of nasty. And then the only other thing that I would say that is different is like, if you do your oil changes yourself, like, I don't know, it smells a little bit different. It's not really all that much more expensive doing DIY oil changes. So I haven't really personally experienced any sort of like pains with that. Just a little bit different, and that's about it. So still very serviceable myself. It's something that I have no issues with. DIY stuff, wrenching, it's been totally fine for me. So just a quick update here on the 10,000 miles with my first experiences with a diesel. So far, loving it. DEF, don't care, at least not at this point. Maybe that changes over time, don't know, but basically this diesel still kind of in a break-in period, I think, at 10,000 miles, but it's been awesome. So with that said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I will see you guys next time.